Hello and welcome to a very basic tutorial in knitting in the round using the two circular method, just to get you started to show you the difference between this and the other methods of knitting in the round if you are interested, and to give you the very basics to start. So I have two circular needles. It doesn't matter if they have the same cord length, it doesn't matter that they are the same cord or the same manufacturer, but it is very important that they are the same thickness. So I have cast on 24 stitches using long tail cast on. If you are interested in long tail cast on, I do have a tutorial for that. So the thing we need to do is we need to distribute these evenly over the two needles. So we have 24 stitches, so 24 stitches are going to have to go onto this needle. So we're going to push these to the tip. We're going to transfer them. I like to transfer them quickly. If that gives you the heebie-jeebies, you can just go. If that gives you, or if that makes you feel anxious, you can just go one at a time. Let's stop and see if I have 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Look at that. All right, so we've got each of these halves on each of the needles. So now we're going to fold this up, and I'm going to scooch them onto the cords for both. So we have half the needles and half the needles, or half the stitches and half the stitches. And between the cords and the yarn, this is going to look just really extreme. All right. Now, we want to get the needles that we are going to, the stitches we are going to be working onto a needle tip. So the yarn is coming off this stitch here, which means it was the last one cast on, which means this is not the one we're going to do. We need this to not be the stitch we're working. We don't work stitches twice in a row unless we have a really good reason when we're knitting in the round. So the next one we're going to do is this one. So this is going to be the first half of our stitches. So we're going to push these on the cord until they are up and onto the needle tip. And now we're going to use the needle tip attached to this one. So in the two circular method, if you've seen a magic loop, the one needle knits all of them. But in the two circular method, these 12 stitches will only ever be knit by this needle. So I need to make sure that I have the needle that is attached, the needle tip that's attached to the same cord. You don't need them to be this long. I've just grabbed the ones I have on hand. All right, so we've got the working yarn coming off the back. It's going to come up here and we're going to knit. Now, a quick thing is before we start knitting, we need to make sure that we're not knitting in the round, or nothing is twisted. So if we hold this and we trace around, we can trace, so I've got all these little bumpy bits from the long tail cast on facing in, and none of them twisted up and around the needle. If they had twisted, it might look something like this, where I'm traveling, oh, I'm going down and around. So that we never want an amusement park ride. We want this nice and straight. All right, so we've got everything flat. We've got the working yarn coming off the back, and we've got the tip and the tip from the same needle. Once we have this secured and knitted, everything becomes a little easier because we can't, this moment here where things kind of can gap open is always a bit fraught. So I will knit, making sure to keep this tight and close so that I don't have a big gappy bit between the two halves here. All right. So, and then I simply work across using those two tips, same cord, same needle. So this is the needle happy enough to be the front half needle. When I get to the end, I'm going to slide the stitches onto the cord, and then I'm going to, for the sake of making it very clear, I'm going to make it so that these two are away. I'm going to rotate my knitting This is very awkward to do for a tutorial. It is less awkward in real life. And I'm going to hold the stitches again. And again, the working yarn is coming off the back half so that the first stitch here will be the half we are working. So we need to get this on a tip because we can't work off a cord. So we have slid the tip, the stitches to the tip. Then we need to make sure that we are grabbing the same needle, because if we knit them with a different needle, then it's not a two needle or two circular method. At that point it becomes a one circular method, and then you need to do magic loop. So this needle is attached. All of this. And if you find it confusing, you could buy needles with different color cords, or some different manufacturers have different color needles. What I would recommend against is using very different needles. So I wouldn't use like a wood and a metal, because the difference in materials of needles can change your gauge, even if the needle is identical in size, simply because of the difference in drag and the like friction, I guess. I mean more than drag. All right, so I've knit across, I'm sliding it on, and now we have knit all the way around, one round. The cast on yarn, the tail from the cast on, will always be coming between the needles if you've gone all the way around. All right, so I need to start again, so I'm sliding this all the way on to the tip. I know that I'm doing these ones and not these ones because the yarn is coming off of those ones. So they've just been worked, they need to rest. Then I make sure that I grab the same needle tip, same needle, different tip, I guess. Grab the yarn as I like to hold it, and then I work around, preferably without splitting the plies. The first few rounds of any knitting in the round method always feel the most precarious and the most like you're trying to wrestle with a greased eel or a porcupine or something. And if you can just get the first few rounds done, it becomes much easier. If you are really struggling, you may wish to ask a friend or someone at the yarn shop to cast on and knit the first, 5 rounds for you. You will find this a lot easier to learn the technique if you are not also struggling to work on getting the fabric built up. Once there's a little bit of fabric built up that kind of controls the needles and everything, it's much easier. So I hope that this helps you. Just practice a little bit, play around with the different techniques, and you'll soon find which way of working in the round works best for you. Happy knitting in the round.